Okay, got the red smoke.
Gun runs north or south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. Get cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
So what are we going to call this one? I was thinking Knights of the Round Table, but there's a problem.
I like that.
Only 3 of the 4 know what the hell you're doing. And so I would be like the squire. So that sucks. So I guess we can do that. So it'd be 3 knights out of the round table and the court jester.
What can we call
And
it?
I'm
I
calling
was
myself.
the fucking court jester on this one.
You go.
I was like, okay,
All right.
never mind.
Well, then introduce yourself, court jester. We're going to go around this
All right.
way.
My name is Michael Ransom. I'm an SBG black belt. Been studying martial arts for 26 years, and for the last 12 years, I've been studying Brazilian Jiu-jitsu.
And why did you start?
Jiu-jitsu or martial arts?
What martial art did you start with?
So I started in karate when I was 10 years old. My dad would always bring like martial arts movies home. You know, I watched Karate Kid when I was real young. Ninja Turtles, all that kind of stuff. I wanted to be a ninja. And then, like when I grew up and I started watching the UFC, my dad would bring those movies home too. And like I would always cheer for the strikers and stuff. But then later on, I found out that all that kind of stuff, karate, kung fu, it's all garbage. It doesn't work in a real fight. And then just from seeing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, then later on, when I was about 24, 25, I found a school like 40 minutes away from my house and would just go train because I knew it would be good for me. At my job, I was a security guard at the time. I was going to Treasure Valley Community College and thought, man, if I hit somebody or kick somebody, I'd probably get sued. So, let me give jiu-jitsu a try where I could just hold somebody down or, choke them out, not really hurt them too much, So I thought that would be a better route, something that was actually functional.
I like it. Ricky?
Rick Davison, black belt, straight blast gym under Matt Thornton. Been doing this for 20 years, probably. Same at Straight Blast.
Yep.
That's the only place I train.
And then?
Travis Davison, your most frequent guest. Short
Second
of
to
Dudley.
most frequent
Short of
guest.
Dudley, but I'm coming for him. And my brother and I started jiu-jitsu on the very same night. We rode to the gym together, and that was in 1999, so 20 years ago. And yeah, I mean, now I'm here in Montana and, brought Michael in to work in Whitefish with us. And then my brother's in town this weekend because we're cornering opposite each other tomorrow night.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Whose fighter is coming from?
Rokas.
Okay, and it's a woman, correct?
No, it's a he's male.
I mean, he kind of, yeah.
Listen, I'm not trying to insult the guy, obviously.
Is that why my
you were
brother
right.
brought me here?
You were right. You were right, Andy.
That
And
was
he's a
an
communist too, by the
unintentional,
way.
ill-informed joke. And Aaron, why are you hiding in the corner? You can just low crawl underneath so the video doesn't see you. And then, of course, there's me. But people who listen to the podcast know me. I'm not a black belt, but I do have a black section on my belt. It's very small.
Right.
It's getting smaller. The more stripes you put on there, the more white it gets.
But if you just take those stripes off, it's a black belt. It's small.
Right.
That's true.
You got to rotate it slightly forward. People, it's not a big deal. It's fine. Yeah, so there's a lot of experience in this room. Let's dig right into the most important question. You guys both started on the same day. If you get in the octagon tonight, who's winning?
I would
That's
crush.
a no-brainer.
I would crush him.
No-brainer.
Because
Even with an injury, coming back from an injury, I can't even
we
roll
went
100%
bowling
yet.
last night, and he had to bowl left-handed.
I was
Never
going to ask
bowled
if that's where the
left-handed in
injury
my
came
life.
from.
Yeah. So I mean, I would crush him.
Hold on. I've never bowled left-handed in my life.
No, we're not talking about bowling now. Now we're talking about the octagon again.
Okay.
You guys go into the octagon. You're healthy.
Oh, it's
Started the same day. You and you?
I mean, you got to bet on yourself, but it would be a knockdown drag out.
It
Yeah.
always is. We've had some hour-long battles.
On the mat?
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
With
That
no
seems
hour
like
straight,
that seems excessively long.
I one trip he came up to Montana for camp. I think like what was that 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah,
maybe more. Yeah, he's one of the few people who I've actually like popped joints on because he just refuses to tap, and I admire that about him because I wouldn't tap to him either.
I think there's a point where that might become counterproductive.
Yeah, I was going to say after this last surgery.
What was that? I'm trying to
counterproductive.
think in my head, what was the theme to camp a few weekends ago? Oh, longevity.
Yeah, well, that's not when you fight your brother who's less than 2 years different in age, you know? Yeah, I think we're like 18, 19 months apart or something. So, and you grow up beating up your brother and getting beat up by your brother and then, you know, do something like jiu-jitsu. When we started, I think we both got our blue belt at the same time. And then he got his purple belt before me. Then he got his brown belt before me. And then I got my black belt before him. So
There's a reason for that.
I win because he can never catch up now.
What's the reason for that?
He did get his black belt 3 months before me. That's true. Something like that. But it was only because I had been training because I was fighting MMA at the time. So I wasn't wearing the gi. If I'd been wearing the gi, I probably would have got it 3 months before him. At least. Maybe 6.
Sounds reasonable.
Well, there is some truth in what he said.
All right. I mean, that's fair.
He was fighting MMA at the time, which, you know, jiu-jitsu is like one piece of the puzzle. But if you're training for MMA, your focus is definitely a little bit more spread out. You know, there's other things you have to think about and other things you're working on. So it definitely does take away from just the pure jiu-jitsu skill set. So I will grant him that might possibly some of that might be true.
It's fair enough. Like I was talking about before we started, it was cool having the most recent person on was Matt, just to talk about the philosophy of SBG. Before that with Paul, who you want to talk about an interesting and diverse background of real world experiences, kind of unbelievable. He's a Renaissance man, which I'm not exactly positive what that means, but I think he is a Renaissance man for sure. And before that, Frankel, the nutty professor, who watching him roll at camp, like I was saying when we were talking about Matt, I literally sat there and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to change a few things up in how I approach this. But it's been cool to hear all of those things because I think we dove into a different area of jiu-jitsu every time. So now I think is the best time for the best stories you guys have about jiu-jitsu on and off the mat. Because I have buddies who hit me up, they keep asking about, hey, have you ever seen anybody shit themselves on the mat yet? I'm like, what are you? Why would that happen?
That I have not seen. I've seen somebody shit themselves in MMA, not from any particular thing other than just, you know, strain and oops, you know.
What's the move after that? Do you say, pardon me, we need a few moments to take care of this, or is it over?
I think you just pretend it didn't happen. Yeah. I mean,
just keep going.
Yeah.
It's true. Show must go on.
That's a nasty show beyond that point, though.
Yeah, it's not good.
You never want to trust the fart, especially when you're rolling.
No.
Never trust the fart.
Well, usually they're not on purpose.
Sometimes they get pushed out.
Yeah, you get squished by a heavy dude on top.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. Neon belly.
That's where I heard the shitting stories from. It was in association with Neon Belly,
Yeah.
which I think is what scared me away from Gus, because he's hard to describe other than he's a freaking condor of a human being with gorilla mitt and the strength that's a little bit beguiling for his body. Like, where is this coming from?
Well, and he doesn't lift weights or work out. So
All he does is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but even when he started, he had that crazy grip.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to, I think you were talking to him at camp, and I think somebody who will remain nameless, but we'll just call him Nelson for the purpose of this conversation. We were talking at camp. It's a made-up name,
Yeah.
as far as we're concerned.
We don't even know anyone with that name.
Yeah.
We don't. But he was talking. I think we were talking about how you guys can see somebody come into the gym, and you're like, okay, that person's going to be here. And Gus asked you, what did you think of me when I came in? And you're like, I thought you were a psychopath, like
Yeah.
slash weirdo.
No, that's a true story. Like, I mean, I've told that 1,000 times. Now it'll be,
1,001.
recorded and
Disseminated widely.
No, I mean, Gus walked into the gym, our first location, tall, gangly. He had 2 mohawks. I think they call that like
It was a
bihawk.
reverse mohawk.
Whatever, Michael.
It was because you're focused more on the negative space.
Yeah.
It's
This.
not really a reverse mohawk because you have
Reverse
that
mohawk.
Harold.
Yeah. So before Michael so rudely interrupted me,
Let me go get your beer.
that
I'll
would
go
be
get
good.
you
I'll
another
take
beer.
one. Too.
No, he had like pink mohawks, piercings in his face, in his nipples, like just, And I looked at him, and he was kind of like, I don't know, just disheveled looking.
So this is the instantaneous snapshot judgment as the bell goes off as the door opens.
And truth be told, he was like Googling yoga. He was just bored and wanted to do something. He came in for yoga, and spur of the moment decided, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. And so he bought a gi, and he said, I'll see you tomorrow. And he walked out the door, and I looked at the few guys that were on the mat. And I'm like, that dude's not coming back. That dude's not coming back. And lo and behold, he showed up the next day and literally showed up every single day from then on out. Like, that guy never missed class. He was the most consistent student I've ever had, still to this day. And he got good super fast. I guess he was just talented. It didn't have anything to do with the fact that he was the most consistent student that I ever had and that he came to every single class. But I think he got his black belt in like 6 years.
Which Matt was talking about that on the last podcast too, how 12, 13, whatever the normal number of people associate with, doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. Well, and people, I mean, let's be honest, like, people are just stupid. So,
And / inconsistent.
yeah, and maybe just not very thoughtful, because jiu-jitsu is not unique. Like, you feel piano or whatever. It's never about the number of days or the number of weeks or months or years. It only ever is about the hours. And so if it's 10,000 hours and you go 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I go 1 hour a week, you're going to get there first in terms of weeks and days and years. But ultimately what it boils down to is the number of hours. And some people get their hours quicker. And he did, because he showed up more than anyone else did.
Yeah, I was hesitant to roll with him due to the tales of losing control of one's bowels associated with knee on belly, because the stories of his knee on belly pressure
It's awful.
are legendary. So then we started rolling, and it was awesome. It was like he couldn't have been more helpful. He would sweep me and go, "What happened?" I'm like, I don't know. He's like, "Go back, let's do it again," and sweep me. And what happened? I'm like, same answer as the first time. Then he would show me. I'd say, "Okay," but I mean, he was the best. Like, very totally controlled the entire time. And then, so of course, at the end, I'm like, "I need you to demonstrate your old knee on belly pressure because I've heard about it." He's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Oh God."
Yeah. It's funny because Gus is one of the nicest, most considerate people that you'll meet. And yet he's also the type of guy who would take pleasure in and go out of his way to submit you with knee on the belly. Not like go there as a transition or a position, but he would he'd take pride in the fact that he could submit you with his knee on the belly. Which is not unlike what a lot of the coaches are talking about now with like Keisuke Katami and, tapping people with pressure. He was just doing it before they were.
Yeah, that's a crappy position to be on the inside of. Rick, what's your favorite thing about jiu-jitsu?
Besides rolling with dudes.
Yeah, rolling with dudes, number one for sure.
Sweaty, of course.
Yeah, that's right. Favorite thing about jiu-jitsu? I would say the challenge. I would say the challenge. My game's pretty basic, I would say, but it's but there's always something that I'm learning. So I think always learning something new is what I like the most. I mean, no matter how much I do it, I'm not a big YouTube. I don't watch a lot of videos, to be honest with you. But when I
Which
do,
seems to be the recommendation, actually, pretty widely and broadly.
and I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying for me personally, because the way my game is, I don't retain information like that. But when I do watch them, it has to be something really basic. Rafael Lovato Jr., something like that, where it's just like, do, smash pass, or this, that, whatever. And when I watch those videos, and usually it's of guys who do similar things that I do, whether it's Marcelo Garcia, which I'm not putting myself on that level, but with butterfly guard or something like that, and I watch it, and I'm like, that's the little detail that I'm missing to perfect what I'm trying to do. And then I do it in the gym, like, that's what I was missing. So I think just constantly being able to learn something every time you're on the mat is what, I mean, I don't know if that's what keeps everyone else from going back, but that's what keeps me interested, or my favorite thing at least about jiu-jitsu, is that you can always learn something new, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. So.
Michael?
My favorite part of jiu-jitsu would probably be that, like, the efficiency of it all. Like, you can smash somebody who doesn't know jiu-jitsu without using a whole lot of muscle. Like, I've had, like, way bigger guys, like, white belts underneath me, and, like, they can't do anything. Like, they just struggle, and that's kind of an awesome feeling to know that, like...
Tell me more. I'm not familiar with this.
Like, if I get on top of somebody, it's just little movements that can just turn someone's good day into a real bad day. Like, a little guy can make a big guy just suffer, without hardly doing anything. And that's, to me, that's awesome to watch. From the top, you're looking down, and they're struggling to get out. That's
so
jiu-jitsu.
if I get this right, so your
Smash
favorite part
people.
about jiu-jitsu is smashing white belts?
Not smashing white belts. Big
I
guys.
don't know if it's
big
that.
guys. But no, listen.
I think it might be looking down at them.
Looking
is the
down
best
and be like,
eye contact.
No, not all that.
I'm picking up on some
Anybody.
psychological stuff
No,
here
no,
that I don't know.
Could
like,
be sexual in nature.
Just to know, like, if
No,
if-
I
if
completely
were,
understand what you're saying in all seriousness.
If I ever had to fight a big guy, I know I'd be able to handle myself.
If you ever had to fight a big guy,
Yeah.
and I say this, a picture came up in my Facebook timeline. I started the last day of July. I'm like, oh, okay, now I know how long I've been doing this, which is not long, right? Everybody at this table can agree. But what has baffled me is the lack of knowledge you have to have in comparison to somebody else to make it a little bit ridiculous. Like, I was rolling with a buddy in Salt Lake, and he's awesome. Mm-hmm. And he wants to learn jiu-jitsu, but he can't learn jiu-jitsu. He's a large guy. Mm-hmm. It didn't go well for him.
Mm-hmm. Right, but that's what's so cool about it. Like today, today in class, I think I said something. We were talking about like the Taekwondo school down the street and the Aikido school down the street. And I was saying how, you could be a black belt at that school and walk out of that school feeling like you were a badass and that you had a certain expectation of what you could and couldn't do. Or you could do jiu-jitsu and get a blue belt and be a real badass. Right? Like that's in essence what you're saying. Like, you don't have to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu to just be able to tool people. Like, if you're a blue belt and they're not doing jiu-jitsu, you're God.
It's going to be a problem for sure.
You're going to be like Michael's, just bullying people all the time.
Beating
and
up white belts
beating up
24/7.
Just enslaving people.
It's not even about that.
I
actually think the linchpin of your comment was the eye contact, because you had like an emotional response in your eyes.
Yeah.
There's bully-proof jiu-jitsu, and there's bully jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
we call that Filipino jiu-jitsu.
I'm going to open up my own school called Dirty Mike's. Dirty Mike's Jiu-Jitsu.
Is it eye contact at all times?
Mm-hmm.
Only white belts are allowed.
He kicks you out as soon as you learn it.
Once you get a blue belt, you're done.
Yeah.
Oil checks.
That's
all
not
of it. All of
good.
it.
That's not good.
It's not good. It's great.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Have you guys found... Actually, I think the Davison brothers might have a different answer to this. Have you guys found the more that you guys have known a lot of this stuff for a really long time, do you find that I have seen, at least in my own life, the people who are not, they've never been tested are the ones who seem to want to jump into that arena to test themselves. So they're looking. They're like, oh, yeah, that guy's talking shit. Right? They want to go and pursue. Whereas I have seen the people who I know who know or have the most experience, they're like, nope, I'm out. I don't want any part of this because they understand like, hey, let's just go buy the guy a beer. That's my favorite move when people are becoming assholes in bars. Hey, man, you want to go outside? I'm like, no. How about I buy you and your friends each a beer? And like 20 minutes later, we're boys.
Right.
And it's the best tool ever. Like, hey, man, you're obviously hammered. Let me get you more hammered. Like, but it shuts it down because, I mean, and I'm not saying I have any of that experience, but I just am not interested in pursuing violence unless forced to do so. But have you guys noticed the more that you understand and learn about it, the less likely you are to engage in that particular activity outside of a gym environment?
Yeah, I agree 100%. For me, and I think most people, I think if you took most MMA fighters, I bet 80 to 90% of them outside of the octagon.
You probably couldn't force them to fight.
No, they would probably do the same thing. Of course, there's dicks everywhere in every, business.
Michael's here. I mean,
but
Stop.
But I would say 100%. And for me personally, when we first started out, it was just like, dude, we probably shouldn't get any more fights anymore because what if we run into one of those dudes, right? But as you get better, have been doing it longer, if you spar in the gym, or if Mike comes down, which he doesn't come down anymore.
Well, he doesn't have to anymore. He's training with the best right now.
Right. Well, he was trained, second best. But it's like we're in there doing this all day long. So it's like you get in a bar, you're having a good, not even bar, just whatever, in that atmosphere.
More than likely, it's going to be a bar.
Yeah, mostly a bar.
It's going to be a
let's
bar.
not beat around the bush.
And
Like
something
For guys, 90% of the time,
Yeah.
it's going to be alcohol involved, likely in a bar or restaurant. I mean, straight up.
I think you missed that by 10%.
It's possible.
And when something like that does go down, unless it's a self-defense thing or it's just unavoidable, I think it is like, dude, I've been doing this for 20 years, as often as I can. The last thing I want to do is when I'm out hanging out with my friends is to do what I do all the time anyways, and I know I would waste you anyways, most likely.
Yeah, it's just
if the only reason you would do it is if you're a bully like Mike.
Yeah.
at Dirty
Right.
Mike's.
At Dirty Mike's.
But no, what my brother's saying is spot on. And look, we're not saints or it would be dishonest to not.
We've had lapse of judgments.
Yeah, I mean we've been in fights together. We've been in fights individually. So we've been in that situation, but I'm trying to think if I've had to. I just don't get in fights anymore. Like there's just it's different. I think a lot of the what happens when you get a bunch of men in a room together like that, and then people are drinking and stuff like that. It's fear, and that fear kind of goes away once you have the tools to actually deal with the situation. It gives you the level-headedness to do the buy a beer trick. Because look, if you're a scared man and stuff gets heated, you're not thinking because you're afraid.
Well, you're starting off in a corner. You got nowhere else to be pushed.
But when you're cool and relaxed and chill and confident, and you're not, like when you go out in public, you're not worried about getting beat up, then when the situation arises where a fight could happen, you can use common sense to be like, you know what, not worth it. You know,
I've seen parallels in the gun world. Actually, people who make a decision, they want to go and pursue getting a concealed carry permit. And so they go and they buy a gun and hopefully they get some training. And the most common thing that I hear from people who start carrying a gun for the first time is, I don't want to mess with anybody because I don't know how many other people out there have a gun, which is what they weren't thinking about before they went into it. But it completely pops their balloon. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm freaking Clint Eastwood with a 6-shooter, they're like, I'm not messing with anybody. I'm going to be yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's interesting.
It makes sense to me, though. I mean, it does, and the idea of, carrying concealed weapons or having access to firearms makes sense. As far as there's some meme on Facebook about people were more civil when you could axe them in the head, that sort of thing, where the threat of being a jerk resulted in me taking that tactical tomahawk and just splitting your skull. Like, you were less likely to be a jerk in public.
That was pre-social media times, because the digital tomahawk doesn't seem to work for people, so they kind of disconnect between their whatever fill-in-the-blank comment and somebody meeting them in an elevator and having one of those tomahawks.
Right.
Yeah.
I think too, hopefully this isn't getting way off topic, but
Get in the rabbit hole.
I feel like, because I went to go get my concealed carry permit.
Yep.
Like, I think it was last summer. And I was in there with a room of people, and I was like,
It should scare the
These
shit out of you.
mothers.
I already know where you're going. Yeah.
this guy could actually be carrying a gun. Like, it was boom. And he was done with the class. He paid his money. I mean, kudos for him to come into the class at least, and because you can do it online too in Oregon. But I was like, I'm looking at these people. I'm like, this is scary as shit.
So
Like-
what you just described is the black belt at the Taekwondo school. They go out and because I've been to those courses and I've watched them, and I've watched people who have never shot a gun. They show up with their usually a Glock 17, Glock 19. It's in their box. They do not know how it works at all, and they go to a 2-hour class. They shoot maybe 15 rounds, and pating, depending on their state. Here's your certificate of graduation. Go down to probably I think it's the sheriff that manages it, and then the next thing you know, they're carrying concealed. And the only people that are in danger if they ever clear leather on their holster is everybody but who they're aiming at. The safest place to be is directly in front of them and just holding still, because they can't hit But what's crazy is they think because they have a gun that they're going to be safe, and it is it's an incredibly dangerous headspace to be in. And for like the last 2 weeks, I've been doing almost nothing other than being on the internet, making fun of people / potentially bullying.
You've been doing a really good job of it, actually.
Crazy shit I see online about firearms instruction that is some of the most dangerous and wacky off-the-wall stuff I've ever seen. But people have no filter. They're just like, oh, this guy is an official school. He has an Instagram account, so therefore I'm going to do what he says, and they're going to die.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Well, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just, it's funny we're getting off this, rabbit hole, whatever. But I'm thinking about it, like listening to that, and it's like that's such a important piece of what we try to do at SBG, as far as we do our free women's self-defense all the time. And I think the thing that I preach more than anything else is, look, if you don't train it, you don't own it. And I use the example of guns because so many people go to bed at night thinking they're bulletproof because, well, I'm good, I've got a gun. Or their answer to everything is, oh, yeah, but I just shoot you. And it's like,
sure you would, buddy.
Yeah. And there's so many things asinine about that knee-jerk response, but not the least of which is, so I touch your wife's butt, you're going to murder me? Like, that's justifiable homicide? I'm walking down the street with your TV, and your only way of stopping me is to put a bullet in me? Like,
hold on. Is it like an LED TV?
I know.
Or does it have a tube still? If it has a tube, dude.
Is it a big old box one? Are we talking perhaps curved? I mean,
yeah. So, but
no, it's insane. But people,
it is insane.
I get into a car wreck with you, a fender bender, which our insurance is going to be fine. We're going to throw out $500 each on a deductible. And I was reading about a road rage incident today. The guy shot at the person in the car, missed, hit the 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point, right? Like, isn't it, it seems to be dishonest to me to sell people this sense of security in a gun if they're not going to actually learn how to use it.
But they're witting participants in that fraud. Well, I think in the gun world, if you think that the possession of an item is going to equate to safety, then you're not actually paying it. Like, it'd be the same as saying, "Oh, I'm 16. I'm just going to go buy a car because I can, and since I'm old enough and I possess this car, I know how to drive." You don't. You're completely irresponsible to get behind the wheel. The gun world, I don't know why people have such a sense of safety just because they possess a gun. It's the exact opposite of that if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, and it's not easy to hit stuff with a pistol. Like it's
And that's for most people in a lit environment with no stress on a linear range. I mean, I was at Northwest Shooter the other day.
I love that place, by the way.
But I was on the rifle range. I was sitting there shooting with a guy whose name we won't use. We'll just use the name Nelson. And every time I go,
Nelson.
He should have been here.
every time I go to the gun ranges, all I like to do is look at the ceiling. Go to Northwestern Shooter and take a look at the ceiling.
I know what you're talking about.
There's bullet holes all along, and each one of them has an amazing story of a fucking idiot with an item that is designed to take life, and they're just not taking it seriously. That's what I'm saying. Like there's the gun people who kind of portray it, but I truly believe that those people who just buy into that, they're a witting participant in that fraud as well.
Yep.
And I almost think that the Taekwondo people, I don't have enough experience, but I'd almost think that they might be a witting participant in their disconnected delusion of their ability level. They'd have to be, right?
You know, I think I've thought about this a lot of times, and I don't mean to pick on the Taekwondo people only. Like I'll pick on Hapkido and Aikido, and
we should do Aikido. Whatever Steven Seagal does. Let's pick on that.
Well, I think Rokas, who's fighting one of my guys, was an Aikido guy. But he cut his ponytail off, which is cool, when he gave up Aikido. But in all seriousness, I think what happens, and this is just a guess, martial arts is not free. It shouldn't be free. So people pay for it, and then they earn rank. And just like in any system, the military, police, the corporate world, where there's a rank involved, it's like, well, yeah, I'm this rank now, and you're that rank, and then you keep moving up these ranks, and you start to be invested in whatever it is that you've earned rank in, and you've spent money on. Now you see people all the time invest money, and it's a bad investment, but they get to the point where they're so deep in that they don't want to get out, and
they don't want to realize the loss.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the term for that, but the reality is this: I think that you put 10, 15 years into a martial art, and at some point you discover it's not real. Most people are going to continue to pretend because they want to believe it's real at that point.
That's a tough spot to be.
Yeah, but I mean, am I right? I mean, I just think that's how people operate. It's with all their beliefs, right? Where most people have a very hard time letting go of a position that they've defended and believed in because
and invested in.
Because you have to be humble, and you have to, you also have to basically admit that you were wrong. And I think a lot of people have a hard time, even when given the evidence that, hey, you fucked up. They don't want to own it.
Especially if they're down the road. I think it gets harder every foot you go down the road.
100%. And so they're emotionally invested in it. They are ranked in it. They've spent money on it. And now all of a sudden they got to say, oh yeah, the last 15 years, worthless.
I think we should talk about Steven Seagal a lot for the next 90 minutes.
I mean, I don't want his attorneys to contact you again.
I'm going to reverse us back out of the rabbit hole for a second.
Okay. Does it end in Steven Seagal?
No.
Shit.
But
he's above
when
the law,
I
by the way.
brought the gun when I was in that room and I was doing and I saw people in there, I was like, this.
What kind of gun
dude's
was
got
it, by
a
the
gun.
way? I want to find out if it's a Glock.
No.
For 90% of people it is, though.
You don't bring a gun to the concealed carry permit test, It's like
You don't?
No, do you?
I don't know. I never took it.
No.
What kind of gun do you have?
Montana's a shall-issue state for a military veteran. What did you qualify on? Finger guns? Pew, pew.
Rubber band.
No, it's like, hey, that was a 10. X. 10.
Here's the point I was going to make.
Okay, get to the point.
Just in the same way when you look around a room and you're like, this dude's got a gun, that's scary. Or this chick's got a gun, that's even scarier. But I think the other reason why when I go to a bar, even whether there's fighters there, whoever it is, the other thing I think of is this motherfucker, somebody gave him a black belt? Like, who would give that guy a black belt? He's a dick. and he just is a bad person.
Yep.
So I think that's the other reason why I'm like, is it important enough for me to like go into a bar even though I know I can probably beat up the majority of people? Most likely.
Les Michael was
Or are there two guys in there or a guy in there who maybe gets a lucky hit, whatever, and maybe he's trained too, but he's just a bad dude? So I think that for me personally, that's probably the other reason. Because there's guys out there who shouldn't carry a gun, and there's guys out there who shouldn't be trained in martial arts.
Yeah, it's kind of in the hands of the beholder. I mean, it's an amazing tool. You could force people to look into your eye from a bottom position, or you could teach people to be bully-proof, right? You could be the bully, or you could teach people to be bully-proof.
It is just like a gun, right? I never thought about it in that sense. But yeah, I mean, because a gun can be such a necessary tool and can be used for a lot of good. But it can also, in the wrong hands, can do a lot of damage too.
I've got a good story, sort of.
Tell me more.
I won't say any names.
Nelson?
But no, you know the story too. So I would say probably, God, we were purple belts at the time. And we were training in Portland. And a guy came in the gym. He was a black belt.
Oh, and Wing Chun?
No,
I know the story.
Gnarly, and he came in, matter of
Kicked my
fact,
ass. He
and my
kicked
brother was
my
like, dude, I don't
ass.
even know if I'm a purple belt anymore.
I called Matt.
The guy was that good.
Matt was in Canada. I called Matt. I just got my purple belt. I was like,
So this random dude just rolled in.
This random dude, like he rolls in on the 10
Nice
speed.
guy. Nice
10
guy.
speed. And I'm running like an open mat in Portland. Dude rolls in on 10 speed, looks kind of homeless. And he's like, hey, can I roll, And I was like, yeah, sure, man. He's like, okay, I'm going to go get my gi. Comes back. It was
Black
one of those
belt.
Gus stores. I'm like, oh, this dude's not going to come back. Right? He comes back. He goes into the back and he changes and he comes out and he's got a black belt on. And I'm like, what the hell? Right? Like some homeless dude on a 10 speed. Now he walks out of the back with a black belt on. And so I rolled with him and he just murdered me. And at the time I felt like I was pretty good because a good purple belt, like, I mean, you're getting there.
They're pretty spicy, from my experience.
And so I got on the phone. I called Matt up. He was at our gym in Kingston, Canada, with Mike Sweeney and Rebecca. And I was like, dude, I don't even think I'm a purple belt. I'm like, I think you shouldn't have given me my belt because I had just gotten it and stuff. And anyways, I let my brother finish the story because he ended up spending more time with that individual. But turned out the dude was world class.
So I heard the story about him telling Matt he didn't think he was a purple belt. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to roll with this guy because I'm not thinking I'm a purple belt.
Engage mat dodging.
So we trained with this guy and both same experience. I'm like, this dude's good. And I'm like, okay, he's a black belt and I'm a purple belt, but still I should be able to hold my own a little bit. So then he comes back. He actually did a couple classes and then he actually came back and did MMA with us, and we did MMA, and I was like, oh, he's all right, whatever. And came back and actually taught a class. This was way back, a long time ago. And so then we kind of became, I would say, acquaintances, not friends, and because he was kind of shady. I never knew where he's like, oh, just drop me off right here. I just lived right down the street. I'm like, all right, cool. But I didn't think anything of it because it's like, okay. So then we went to a fight one night, and I think it was
IFL.
IFL.
Yeah.
And him and two other guys from the gym, and we go to the fight, and I pick up, this dude's in my car, like several times. We've hung out, and we get to the fight, we're hanging out, and Renzo Gracie walks out, and he dips down in his seat, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I just don't want him to see me. He's like, we got bad blood. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. It's like a white dude, right? It's not like a Brazilian guy, like, oh, maybe it's like some beef they got. But so the fight happens, whatever, and I drop him off that night. That was the last time he'd rode in the car with me, and it's like, just drop me off right here. And I'm like, all right. I just thought it was kind of weird. I was like, dude, I'll drop you off at your house. He's like, no, that's fine. Walks down an alley, leaves, goes. And some other guys that we were with were so intrigued by how good he was.
They were YouTubers. It was Jonathan Lee and Will.
Well, I wasn't going to say any names.
You can say those. You can say those names. I'm not saying the name of the guy who's in prison.
Maybe those aren't real names.
So they're nerding out.
Oh, they are.
They're nerding out on videos, and thank goodness they were, to be honest with you, because I wasn't. I can give a shit about videos and
Yep.
who you are and that stuff. So they find out who this guy is, and we Google him, and he's wanted.
He tapped
for
Marcelo
rape.
Garcia twice.
He's wanted for rape and like at knife point, like on several occasions. And this
On
dude's
Christmas?
been driving around. Yeah, it was crazy.
Jumped bail in California, was on the lam, stole an ID in Oregon.
But this is a guy who, I mean, was beating world champion. Like
phenomenal grappler, could have been the best grappler in the world. He literally tapped Marcelo Garcia in competition.
We'll tell you his name after the podcast, but
Where's he at now?
Everyone who
He's in
hears
prison.
this is going to figure it
Prison.
out.
he's in prison.
So he's doing yard jits in Pelican
name?
Bay.
But you get
What's his
that.
name?
But you got guys like that who were just in Oregon who are in prison.
He was a
You've got-
Half Gracie black belt. Cameron Earl.
But you've got the guy who was in, who was the UFC fighter who was recently up in Morgan. He was a black belt, and he's in prison for, I mean, just it's ridiculous.
Hermes Franca.
Hermes Franca.
Oh,
So
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, let's not pretend that being a black belt in jiu-jitsu makes you a black belt in life. Like, they're two separate things, and I think that's where you're going with this. At least I hope it is, because if not, I'm just putting words in his mouth. But for me personally, and I've said this before, and my students will hear it until I'm dead. I'm not going to wrap a black belt around somebody unless they're a black belt in life, period. Because too many people look up and put too much status on that belt. I'm not going to award it just simply based on performance. You can be a brown belt at my gym and you could roll like a black belt, but if you act like a white belt, you're going to be a brown belt forever.
Have you ever encountered that, or does it kind of?
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I was wondering if the time and effort taken to get to that level would probably
For most people, it fixes them.
fixes them or weeds them out because they just don't want to put the effort in.
For most people. And that's why you don't hear about it that often. But when you do, it's disgusting.
Do you address it directly, or I mean, what's the approach you've taken when you have seen it?
Well, I've really only had to date one particular incident, and it was out of my hands. And I didn't belt the person, and it turned out that the person
Didn't deserve it.
didn't deserve it, and now they're not a black belt anymore at SBG.
I only have, I've got kind of a sense for these kind of things when I meet people, and I'm usually right. And there's been one person that I've had a bad taste in my mouth about, but he's not part of the organization anymore.
I feel like your guys' mechanism would be substantial
I know
throttling
I know.
every open mat until that person decided to go elsewhere.
I know who he's talking about.
Well, I mean, even in my old job, people they confuse integrity with occupation, and it's a very, very, very dangerous position to be in, especially if the occupation or the black belt, it's something that's aspirational or inspirational that people look at. Your ability to manipulate and leverage people beyond what you should be able to do so, it's dangerous.
Well, and that's just it, right? Because here's the thing, like what I know we were going to just be goofing around and lighthearted and making fun of Michael and
We're coming right back to that.
but here, but
5 more seconds.
But this is the thing, like it's like, the president getting a blowjob from an intern, right? Yes, on the surface that seems harmless, like a big deal, like two consenting adults. But it is a big deal, and it's a big deal because you have somebody who's working for free, who's a college student, and then you have the most powerful man in the world.
Yep.
Like, you don't think that there could be a little bit of manipulation happening there? There's a reason why, like, college professors and priests and police and anybody who's in a position of authority, even if it's not a violent, controlling authority, but just somebody who's looked up to, it's important that we pick leaders and put people in those positions who have integrity, who are trustworthy, because if not, it's just way too easy to manipulate the system. You see it all the time with politicians.
Yeah.
I mean, they're constantly like sweetening the pot for themselves. So, and I'm not saying black belts are presidents, but I am saying that there's a lot of responsibility that goes with being a black belt, and there's a lot of people looking up to you and have their eyes on you. And I think what my brother said about not getting in fights because you want to keep the way you act in public, it starts to change. I mean, you have to act differently sometimes because
Eyes are on you.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a burden associated with those jobs. Has there ever been a president that practices jiu-jitsu?
Heck yeah.
Roosevelt,
Yeah. He said that jiu-jitsu. I'm going to totally butcher this. Anyone listening,
Just
anyone
Google the
listening
quote.
can Google it. But yeah, Roosevelt practiced jiu-jitsu. In fact, we're painting him on a mural on the side of the building with
In Kalispell?
Yep.
Killer.
and he basically said in a nutshell that jiu-jitsu was worth more than all other athletic endeavors.
Well, wasn't he the same one who said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick"?
He was a badass. Not
I mean,
gonna
that
lie.
was.
I like that guy. Are you okay, Michael? What's
Yeah,
going
I'm
on?
alright.
Losing your shit over there.
told you.
He's like, oh, powerful man. I'm hot.
I told you that was going to happen.
I
Why
would
are you
say
doing this to
I
me?
would say the other thing before we get lighthearted again is, and I mean this isn't dark or anything, but
Not,
and I
not
don't
as
know where
dark as
I don't know where it
Michael.
comes from, but I think me and my brother, we're as different as we are in a lot of areas. I think we're in the same. I would say 100%. Neither one of us has ever been, like, in awe to the point of an athlete or somebody we train with, to the point where if they're a dick, if we're like,
You're
oh,
gonna
we can
overlook
we
that?
can we can
No.
overlook that because
No.
I want to train with. I've got people that are like, oh, but he's and I'm just like, dude, if that person's not a good not just a decent person, I just don't want to train with them. Not because I'm afraid, not because of this, that. I just don't want to associate with them.
We got limited time and energy. Why would you
Yeah.
want to do that?
And
Yeah.
not only that, is that
I got that quote.
If that's
I'm going
how-
to interrupt you.
Were you close?
I was right on the money. I'm really smart, and I have a super good memory. So tell me how. Shut it, Michael.
Oh, my God.
You're fired after this. When we get off, you're fired. You're going back to Boise.
Who's gonna do the deposits?
I make the money. You deposit it. Okay. The art of jiu-jitsu is worth more in every way than all of our athletics combined. I think I pretty much nailed that.
Do you guys have any idea where he got exposed to it?
Man, I know the story, and he's actually you can still buy the book from his trainer, and it's pretty cool. It's
Killer.
illustrated, and it's badass. But yeah, Roosevelt. Sorry to interrupt
Stud.
you.
that's right.
Yeah,
Back to
the
what
best.
I was saying was pretty awesome too.
It was. I tell you what. It reminds me. It reminds me. So I look back at my military career, and the most rewarding job I think, looking back, was actually when I was an instructor. And the curriculum is straightforward. It's a filter, and it does 90% of the work, and the other 10% is subjectivity in the most objective way possible of the students. Do we trust you around the people that you're going to leave and go work with, people you care about? And 99% of the time it was cut and dry. I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I deviated from my personal standard one time. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the risk, and it bit me in the ass so hard.
Yeah, and you were pissed, right?
Oh, I'm pissed now.
Yeah.
Like it eats at me. I learned such a lesson from that. And I talked myself into it, and have regretted it ever since.
It's almost like living a lie. When you compromise what you believe in or the kind of people you hang out with just because somebody's good at something and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go train with this guy just because he's super good, but he's a total dirtbag or a whatever.
Yep.
And you're like, it doesn't make you feel good. That's for sure. And to be honest with you, so we did the Wimps to Wares program
Fired, no?
to get, Travis was doing it kind of at the same time I was in Portland here. And I had 3 guys drive up that are in the Wimps to Wares program this weekend just to watch Rokas fight because they've been training with him. And it's like, I would much rather hang out with those guys than a world-class black belt who's a douchebag.
Right.
100% any day of the week.
Yeah,
Right,
I couldn't
And
agree
they've
with
been
that
training
more.
for 5 months.
And they drove, 9 hours, almost 10 hours. to support a guy, that doesn't even live in the country. He came here specifically to do Wimp to Warrior.
Did he really?
From
Yeah,
Lithuania.
he's never been to America before. This is the first time.
And his brother flew in today.
People like that
First
are
time
so
in America.
fascinating to me because I love the guy who's like, I'm in.
Yeah.
But what he doesn't understand is what he's in for. But whatever he's in for, he's so in.
Here's the thing. This is what I told my wife. I probably shouldn't say this since he's going to be cornering across the cage from me tomorrow night. But I'm like, look, you don't come from communist Russia to Montana to fight a Montana boy in front of a Montana crowd. Like Jed, you're dead McDonald. I mean, he's going to live up to his name tomorrow night.
Yeah, 100.
Back-to-back World War champions.
And
Yep.
like I was talking to and I shouldn't say this because he's sitting next to me, but
This isn't coming out till Monday, so we're good.
Perfect. So I was talking to Rokas' brother because his parents were here 2 weeks ago, never been to the States, came to Portland just to visit, see how he was doing. They didn't want to go to the fight. So then his brother flew out.
Don't blame him. Smart decision.
Never been to America, so he's going to watch the fight. And so Rokas was doing the thing tonight at the face-off, and so I took his brother up, and I was like, hey, let me buy you a beer or whatever. He's like, all right. So we get up there, and I'm like, so I can't tell because I've been training him for 5.5 months, and he seems the same that he's been while we're training. And I was like, do you think he's nervous? Does he look different? He's like, no, I think he's just excited. And I'm like, okay, because I can usually tell when a guy who's never fought before, especially who's been training Aikido, and then he's getting his ass kicked by all my MMA guys, and he's like excited and not nervous, and I can't even tell. And that's what, honestly, when you're looking at
Eastern Bloc people
fighter,
are tough to read, man.
but when you're looking at a fighter,
I was going to say, yeah,
the ones who show
we
up,
all know how that goes.
I've had guys show up, and I've got this guy Max at the gym, and he's like, you can't tell, he's like this, the stare off, he's like this backstage, and he's like this in practice, and that's what Rokas is like. He's everyone's like, oh, he's such a nice guy, but he's like that just 24/7. So
Be interested to see what happens when the old bell kicks off. What do you think, Michael?
Rokas will be Brokus.
Rokas
On Saturday night, Rokas will be Brokus.
we don't call him Rokas the Focus for nothing.
We've been coaching Jed, your dad McDonald. What, for how many
He's
months
dead?
now?
6 months.
Jed, your dad.
Jed's
McDonald.
dead.
Did I say Jed's dead?
I thought
It's the beers. Okay, Jed, your dad McDonald is gonna break Rokas. I think the way that we've been training real. We've been going hard, and ever since I started coaching, I've seen a big improvement, and we wanted to go hard from the get-go. I wanted them to know what a real fight would be like. What is it gonna be like when you get into the cage? You're gonna get hit in the face. There is no special move where you're coming out, of a round unscathed. You're in a dogfight. That's what that's what real fights are about. So I think just the way we've been training is just gonna set him apart.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, dude, you're not in a dogfight because you know what you're doing. You're going to chill. You're going to relax. You've been there 1,000 times before over the last 5.5 months.
You're going to let him talk to you like that,
It's
Michael?
not a
No,
dogfight.
I'm not.
It's not a brawl.
It is. I
If
want it
you
to
want
be
to
a
go
brawl.
to King
I
of the
want it- I
Cage,
want it
if
to
you
be
want to go to
dirty.
the tough man contest, then yeah, it's a dogfight, dude. You stand there and whoever swings and connects with that good shot. But our guys,
Do you smell that?
Yeah, I do.
That's nerves and fear.
That's fear. Yeah. And a little bit of that poop or pee that we were talking about earlier.
I'm trying to.
That's all coming out
I'm-
right now. Good.
Andy, I'm trying to think of
Right.
the belts that we've had over the last year at the gym. I'm thinking we got the 145-pound title, we got the 155-pound title, we've got the women's 145. I'm just thinking, and I'm like,
Right.
My goodness.
That's awesome.
My goodness.
we're looking at the Wimps to Warriors belt.
That's okay. But they've only had 6 months of training.
Yeah.
How good can they be?
Not that good. It's going to be.
Right.
It's going to boil down
So
to
that's
two
why
things: this
If you're tough,
brain and this.
yeah, if you got heart and you're tough and you just stick to the plan, we're gonna win. So I feel like he's had a lot of hard rounds, so he knows what it's like to be in a fight, and I just think that's gonna give him the confidence, you know.
But has he been
carry
away
him
from
through.
his wife for the last 6 months? This guy's
No.
hungry to get back.
What's his
What does
next
that have
step?
to do
Like,
with
is he,
anything?
does he
What
want
does
to
that have to do
professionally
with
fight
anything?
in Lithuania?
No, he wants to. I think he wants to. I don't know if he wants to move here, but he
course
wants
he
to come
does.
back
Of
here. So he's got to
course
go
he does.
back. But then he's like, he wants to come back and do another amateur fight, like a. Fight.
So does he potentially want to fight professionally, or what's his long-term goal?
I don't know if he'll fight professional.
He's got to
He's
step
28.
away.
He's
gotta
28, so I wouldn't tell him to say, "Dude, drop everything you're doing and you should do this
He's
for a
gotta
living."
step
I
away
think he
from
should
the
do what he's
Aikido.
doing.
He's gotta step away from the Aikido.
He stepped away from the Aikido. That's why he
did?
shaved his ponytail.
Oh.
I wasn't teasing. Like,
I
he
didn't know
literally,
that.
he had a ponytail.
'Cause
I-
all the
I
videos
think
that I've
to
seen
be a
of
black
him-
belt in Aikido, Steven Seagal said everyone has to have a ponytail. I think that's somewhere in their book, but I'm not totally sure. I know they wear a skirt because it's the most efficient fighting clothing that you could wear.
A lot of room for your legs to move.
I don't know. They wear skirts at the Highland Games. Those guys aren't.
Those are kilts. That's
Those guys are
different.
pretty
That is
strong.
different.
I do
don't-
feel
don't
that is
make-
a different
don't-
category.
I did my 23andMe, so if you're trying to make fun of me, you're also related to me.
Anyways, he
100%.
does. I don't.
Kilts
I
are
wouldn't.
Scottish, right?
I wouldn't tell
I'm
him
a little
to
bit
become
Scottish.
a
I don't know
professional
if you
fighter.
know that.
I could be Scottish.
We'll see what happens. Like if he
You
does a
couldn't.
few
I
fights,
can't.
whatever, and he wants to do
I'm
a pro
Mexican.
fight, just to
Yeah.
say, but yeah,
Mike, there's zero chance you're Scottish.
I'm
for
half
clarity.
white.
He's
I'm half
Irish.
white.
He is-
My
he is
my
part
biological
Irish.
father's name was McCann's.
he's Irish.
Research it.
I have a
could be Irish
23andMe
or-
kit upstairs. You're doing
Yeah,
it
that's
before
all
you leave.
bullshit. Okay. Does it go in my anus?
you wish.
Is this what it always comes back to? Is this why he's called?
Where are you gonna put it?
Spicy Mike?
Let me know. Does it go up my mouth?
He was
Does
the
it go up
kid.
my armpit?
He was the kid.
You gotta hit
He
my
was the
butt?
kid. He was like 25 years old, and he's like, "But mom, don't you want to take my temperature rectally still?" Like, son, you're not 5 anymore.
Put that in my mouth now? Oh, that's excellent.
Good Lord.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I like it. Let's get you another beer.
All right, let's
You
do
know
this.
how I know he's not Scottish? He can't. I mean, he
bullshit.
just had 2 Guinness.
Bullshit. I had
Those are
5
like
drinks.
Irish. He's part
I had
Irish.
Those like 3
5
2
drinks.
beers.
Like, when did we go out? Was that last Saturday? Was that Sunday?
Hold
Did
on.
we go
Don't.
out?
First off, Mike, I'm going to help you
I don't
right
remember.
now. Don't try to bolster anything by saying you had 5 drinks unless it's in a
5
fucking
drinks.
hour.
And by
An hour, 30 minutes,
by
baby.
drinks, he means beers.
Yeah, I had 5 beers and I didn't throw up. I
Were you-
didn't make
beer
a fool of
backs
myself. Huh?
Were you ordering like a coffee-tini or
I
something
don't
bullshit
know.
like
I
that?
don't know. They-
Chocolatini with like.
Travis probably calls the places we go to first, and then when we show up, they pretend it's beer, and it's probably just like, those non-alcoholic beers. It's like, whatever he asks
he's
for,
half-
just give him a non-alcoholic.
He's
because
half right.
He'll go
he's
crazy.
half right. I do call ahead.
Right, probably
And
calls ahead, and he's like, hey,
I say give him juice and tell him
I
it's
brought-
like a cider.
it's apple juice. It's just apple juice.
Just don't try to bolster your
Fuck my life.
stories with 5 beers. I don't
For a
even want
year,
to hear
he
it.
thought apple juice was whiskey. It's just
Yeah.
like somebody's like, "Oh, dude,
This
that's
apple juice is really hard. It's really different than the stuff I had.
It goes down a little."
I grew up real religious, so that's why.
Yeah.
I didn't start
You're
drinking
you're
till I
like
was
the
like
Ricky
30.
Schroeder of the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, it was like Ricky Schroeder.
How old
Ricky
are you?
Schroeder's- I'm 36. I'll be 37 in October.
Why did you decide to start drinking?
Just because I'm not religious anymore. So I'm just like,
Hold on. Let's take a step back. What
Oh,
happened?
God.
Oh, this is a good
Oh,
story.
no.
Yeah. Yes.
These guys get me to tell this
Come tell 'em
story.
about the-
And then
the-
they make fun of me.
I
Then
don't
they
make fun of you. I love you,
had
brother.
fucking cancer once. Testicular cancer. It was like, so when I got
He's like, "No big deal."
There's
Just
no big deal.
Yeah.
No, but
no big deal. Listen
the
to this
coolest
story.
thing about this story
The
is I told
weirdest
him when
story.
he told it to me like totally sincere. He's going to tell
Yeah.
it right now because he's being honest.
Yeah.
So
most
gonna
people
totally
find
bring the
religion
mood
when
down.
they're almost dead, right? Like when you're afraid of dying, it's like, oh shit, what's next? Now it's time to find the afterlife. This dude's been religious his whole life, wearing like magical undergarments. For reals, I didn't make that up. I didn't make
Joke?
that up.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
You guys
check
are
this
always
out.
nice, though.
And so he starts to die, literally, and he loses his religion.
Do tell.
Yeah. So this is kind of a weird thing. 2012 was a purple belt. I just got my purple belt. and I thought that I just had an injury during training, and my right testicle swole up. So a week goes by, and I'm just like, oh, this stings. And that thing's real bad. It stinks. A month goes by, I'm like, oh, this is going to go away.
This is a
It's
Paul
gonna go
Sharp
away.
story.
Here's the
I'm trying to
crazy
be
thing.
fucking tough.
If 5
I'm-
seconds goes by and my ball still hurts, I'm like calling
No, man.
911.
I'm just like-
I'm seeing I gotta get
No,
these
dude.
tests run.
So I feel like I had an injury in training. Like I feel like I pulled someone into my guard and I took a knee right
That's
in my
more than an
testicle.
injury. If your ball
I was
stings
like,
for a
"Oh."
month, that's more than an
Right.
injury.
So
and
hold
it's
on,
starting to
Michael. I'm
swell
going to
up.
ask the question.
I'm just trying to be tough.
How big was it?
Yes,
Dude,
that was the
so-
question.
I don't know. It was about the size of a plum.
So like
Maybe
a normal size for the rest of us.
like a like a size of a plum, maybe.
What? Wait, what kind
A
of
small
plums
plum.
are you eating?
I like a small
He
plum.
just went like this, the size of a
Like
plum.
a
What were you
small
eating?
plum.
A kumquat plum?
Like a
dude?
small plum, dude. Like a small plum. Maybe like an apricot. Dude.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
take this.
More like a
big.
Yeah,
kumquat.
an
That's
apricot.
big, dude.
It's like a
apricot.
kumquat.
An apricot, okay?
Yeah, you're making the
Yeah.
size of a golf ball with your
Golf
hand,
ball.
but like, go ahead.
Golf ball.
I would have
Apricot.
an anxiety attack, panic
Right.
attack.
I
I'd
did.
probably go into
I
shock.
was freaking out, but I was trying to be tough about it. I wasn't.
So you
trying to be
rode,
tough.
so you
I'm not
rode this
fucking
out for
pussy.
30 days.
Yeah, even more than that. So listen to this. So I go, and then I see like a doc in the box. I go to like a primary health, and this guy's checking me out. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you got like torsion. That's where the testicle like
Yeah,
like
my
twists
son had
around.
that.
Yeah, it twists around." And he's like, "Oh, it's either torsion or maybe you got a bacterial infection." And I'm just like, a bacterial infection. It's like, it's not like I'm dragging my dick through the dirt or like sleeping around or like having prostitutes. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this thing stays holstered in
Thank
my
goodness
pants.
you weren't, because then
This
you
thing-
wouldn't have known.
Yeah, my dick stays in these magical underwears and
Oh,
I
God.
don't show them to anybody except for my wife. And I'm like, how could I have a bacterial infection, you know? So the dude gives me antibiotics. Another month goes by. And actually, I had met Travis while my
In
testicle
Vegas.
in Vegas.
I
Come
offered
on,
to
dude.
dance
You
with
went
him.
2 months with an apricot in your
oh,
sack.
yeah. Oh,
Dude,
I did.
that's what I'm
I
saying.
did. So I was like, oh,
Fuck.
these antibiotics have to start kicking in sometime. They got to start kicking in, right?
This
they
is
don't.
totally a Paul Sharp
They
story.
don't. They
It's
don't
worse, 'cause
kick in.
It's his balls.
Yeah, so I'm walking around Vegas with one testicle, like swollen, the size of a golf ball, or a small apricot or plum. And I meet Travis, and like Travis comes into this Irish bar that I'm in, and he's like super plastered. He's like, "Hey, you want to dance?" And I'm like,
I don't
"No,
believe it."
thanks." He came in with his wife. This is a funny story. And then shortly
This is
after
before
that,
he joined the gym. He joined
shortly
afterwards.
shortly after that, we joined the gym. So
Yeah, 'cause I
the
can
gym that
dance
I was
really
at,
well.
Combat Fitness, is now Combat Fitness Straight Blast Gym, Idaho. That's the gym that I'm from. Super great bunch of dudes, gnarly black belts.
Okay,
there.
stay on the ball story.
And you're
Okay.
like,
Right.
dude, come to the bathroom with me.
Yeah.
You just met him. He's like, come to the bathroom with me. I got to show you something. Travis like, dude, you,
I was like, one of your balls is really small, and the other one's normal size.
you'll be
Why
fine.
is one of your
You'll be totally
balls
fine.
shrinking?
No,
Ice
so then I go see my actual doctor, my real doctor, and he's like, oh yeah, drop your pants, and I'm like, oh okay, I'm kind of nervous, you know, pretty nervous, and he goes, dude, just like that,
That's
fucking
never a good
just
sign.
like that,
When a doctor
just
says,
like that,
dude.
No, he's like, so he's kind of like a younger doctor, like trying to be
Hold on,
like,
you're
hey,
saying a guy with
man.
about 10 years
Yeah.
of medical school saw that
Dude,
and his
he's
response
like,
was, dude.
Yeah,
Well, he was an acupuncturist.
he's like,
so
dude.
it's like, dude,
He's like, dude,
I can't put needles in that.
this is what he said. Dude, that looks like cancer. And I'm like, ooh, wait, what the fuck?
No,
Like,
you were like,
really?
and then you're
No.
like, dude, are you serious?
Yeah, it was just like that. He's like, I'm like, you're fucking with me, right? You gotta be fucking with me.
Yeah, because that's the
Like,
appropriate
don't-
situation to pull a
Right.
joke off.
Yeah, like cancer. You just said the C word. Mm-hmm. And then right after that, like, I'm having an ultrasound. Then the next day, I'm having it removed. And then, so they send it away, like, somewhere.
Your
to
ball?
Yeah, they send it. They send it somewhere, like,
Hold on,
on
question.
the East Coast. Just
Did
to, like,
you go with a nudicle?
a nudicle?
Yeah.
Fake one.
A new ball.
No, fuck
I was
no.
like, why?
That's a amateur move.
Right.
That is
I was like,
amateur.
why? Unless I'm gonna like show it off and like just be like, you know,
Check this
like
out.
a party,
I always
like
heard
at
if
a
you-
party
if
and be
He's
like,
like a fake eye.
look, look at it. Put it on the
No,
table.
he's like, check it out.
Hit it with the hammer.
Can you
like,
do this?
What are you like? It's worthless. I was like,
Anybody
the
want to play
doctor-
marbles?
like,
He's like,
my doctor tried like to sell that shit to me like several times. Hey, you know, we could put another one in there.
I never
It's just
heard
like
about
the
that.
real thing. I'm like, no, man, I don't.
No,
need
because
that.
if you just leave one, I heard that it
Right.
just gets bigger and takes over the space.
No, it doesn't get bigger.
that's not true.
I
That's
thought
somebody lied to lie.
But they also said like, oh yeah, and I asked my doctor like, well, so what about testosterone? Like, would I need, you know, like, is that gonna go down? He's like, no, that one just takes over.
He's like, dude, you need
But-
testosterone before you got
Anyways,
this.
so I have my testicle removed, and I'm like, they're telling me that I have to have chemotherapy, and I'm like, chemotherapy is derived from mustard gas. I think from like World War I. You know,
I do not know. It could be.
I think when I was doing all the research about it, that's what I was reading. So, like, when the guys got mustard gas, like, it stopped everything. You know, stops your cell growth, everything. And so, basically, they pretty much kill you, almost kill you, and then hope you come back and the cancer doesn't. And so I had, so then I see my what is it, like, what's the dick
Oncologist.
doctor? Yeah,
Oncologist,
no, the dick doctor. This is a urologist.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah,
urologist.
dick doctor.
I
So he's
call
like-
it a dick doctor.
So he's like, he goes, this is how he goes. This is how he explains it to me. He's like, well, you got testicular cancer, and that's one of the best cancers to get. Like, you telling me that there's a best cancer to get? Like, fuck you, dude. It's not a plate of cookies. You're telling me this is cancer. Like, people die from cancer, you know, or you have to get like chemotherapy or radiation, you know. So I had 20 sessions of chemotherapy. I remember, like, after my first week. So I was rolling. I rolled throughout the whole time. I love jiu-jitsu that much, you know. I didn't want to stop. I continued teaching my kids classes. I would roll, not all the time, but I would. I
As
rolled.
much as you could.
As much as I could. And I just remember, like, after my first week of having it, like, I'm taking a piss, and then my buddy's in the next stall, and I'm like, dude, I just took a piss, and all of my pubes just fell right into the urinal. It was so embarrassing.
So
like,
you don't have to
I was like,
manscape anymore.
Fuck. Dude, that's so
awesome.
embarrassing.
His penis just grew by like
we
half an inch.
Exactly.
amazing.
So, like, I'm rolling, and then all of a sudden we take a break and we go use the restroom, and I'm like, those are all of my pubes, just right in there. So everything, all of my hair fell out during the chemotherapy. It sucked, man. So I would sit there.
The manscaping thing, that's kind of a
Yeah,
benefit.
that
You gotta
was
look at
kinda
the,
cool.
That's
Your
the
butt
upside.
hair too?
I look good bald, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if my butt hair fell out,
Probably
but
did.
it probably did. The only thing, though, that kind of held on were my eyebrows. These
Oh,
fuckers
dude,
are
well,
like,
that would take
these
a lot of
fuckers are
chemo
like-
to get those things off.
these fuckers are like cockroaches. These are gonna
that would
stay.
be more like a blowtorch or
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have
That
to.
was awesome.
Yeah.
But every time I had to go get chemo, it was like 4 pounds of like just shit in my bodies, and it sucked, man. So I would be sick.
Yeah,
for
so
most of the
you
month.
totally skipped the religion part of this.
Oh
Ball,
yeah.
ball
Oh yeah.
story.
So back to that. So yeah, the reason why I'm a lightweight is because I grew up Mormon.
Yep.
So I grew up Mormon, and then I just remember like everything was great. You know, thank God, everything's good. Then my sister got sick. She had like a brain tumor, like the size of a fist, and she almost died. We took in her 2 youngest kids for a little while, and I'm like, okay. And then once she got better, she was in a coma for a while. We took care of the kids, sent the kids back home when she was better. And then right after that, I got sick, you know. And then, so I was like, I was just like, this guy doesn't exist. God doesn't exist. He doesn't answer your prayers, you know, like, and then I would go to church and hear these like old ladies talking about how, well, God's gonna, you know, he helped me find my ring or my wedding ring, and I said a prayer, and within minutes, I found my ring. And I'm like, bitch, like, God cares so much about you that he answered your prayer to find like some material little thing. Like, that's your idea of God. Like, and you know, I'm suffering and kids are suffering in Africa. And by the way, yeah, I would always tell myself too, like when I had cancer, I'd look in the mirror, I'd be crying because, it just sucked. Just being sick all the time, right? I would say to myself every day, I'd look at myself in the face and go, you know what? Someone else somewhere is having a worse day than me. So like, let's pack your shit up and go get your chemo and go train. And so, but the way that I felt was like all these people are saying like God loves you so much, or you have like the priesthood in your life, and therefore God's going to help you, but not help someone who doesn't have that religion in your life or that part of that religion in your life. So it's all just to me, it's just all just a farce. Like if you want to believe in that, that's totally fine. If that gives you hope, that's fine. But to me, it's all just a fairy tale.
How has that been with you and your family?
With my family, I don't think, so like on my wife's side, so I've been married for like 16 years now. On my wife's side, I'm sure they're disappointed and they probably pray for me. And to me, I feel like I'm better off without it. Like, why just sit there and wait for someone to answer your prayers when you can get the fuck up and do work, right? Just get up and go. You got to do it. You can't wait around for someone else to help you. You've got to make it happen. So that and that, to me, that's why, there's too many people out there who are like, oh, you're sick. I'm thinking about you. I'll send you some prayers. Right. You're 10 fucking minutes away. You're 10 fucking minutes away. You can't come visit me, or you can't go help somebody. You can't take 10 minutes out of your day to go sit with somebody and be like, hey, man, like, I love you. Let me help you clean your yard, There's something like that, instead of, though my, the LDS church was great about that. They did come fix my yard, they did help. They did try a lot, and they did a lot of good things, but just overall, that, like, I'm sending you prayers. Like, that does nothing for it. It doesn't do anything for anybody, It might give them hope, but you got to act upon it. You know what I mean?
We're deep in the rabbit hole now.
Very
deep in the rabbit hole.
I like
I
it,
think
though.
Michael kind of took over the show.
Sorry.
Yeah, he did. This is why I
I'm
said
sorry.
don't.
He brought
Let's
us
not
down.
have this
Apologize.
no-stripe,
This-
black belt, cancer-having, one-ball
Right.
lunatic.
That's okay.
On
I'm
the
not a
show.
lunatic, and I'm not a bully. I love white belts, and I love big people. I worded that wrong. So,
That, yes.
Okay.
Michael,
I love white belts.
Michael, you did
I
just
take
word that
back.
wrong.
I worded that wrong. I was a little bit nervous.
Hey, there's no,
I had that third Guinness.
there's no do-overs. Just because you're
No.
becoming
I
sensitive
did
now,
do it over. I did do it
You're
over.
just-
I just took it back. I can do
You
that.
need to get back on the
I'm
TRT.
a black belt.
You need to get back on the TRT, bro.
I'm on TRT too. I take testosterone.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. That's all right. I have one testicle. I deserve to take it. I deserve to feel like a man.
I thought the doctor said you didn't need it.
The doctor told me I didn't need it.
Well, so
The doctor told me I didn't need it, but I felt like I needed it, so I went and got it.
Who's your doctor?
All right, man.
Huh?
Who's your doctor? I want to
My
talk to him.
neurologist.
I have no judgment,
My
Michael.
urologist, not my neurologist.
I might want to talk to him too. Actually, I'm getting a little bit older.
So I'll pull us out of the rabbit hole. You guys ready? Here's how we'll end it up. Same question to all three of you. What's the most rewarding thing? 'Cause you guys are all coaches. What's the most rewarding thing a student can do for you as a coach?
Fucking listen. Listen and do what I say.
Okay.
What's the most rewarding thing a student can do? Yeah, I would say listen's probably a universal. Listen but I would one up that by saying listen and then come back with a really, really good question.
Shows you that they're processing the information
And
as opposed to just blankly
That's why
on
I'm
board.
approaching 3 stripes and he still has none, probably.
I was gonna say that too.
And as the only
Thank
man
you.
at the table with 3 stripes, I might have heard the question wrong based on these two's answer. So ask me the question one more time.
What's the most rewarding thing from your perspective as a coach that a student can do for you?
Make their life better. And if they really want to be like a gold star student and be somebody that I will remember, make somebody else's life better.
starts by listening.
They can't do that without listening
Start
and asking
by
questions.
listening.
They can't do that without listening.
Sore
and-
losers.
Fuck
That
you,
was
Travis.
great. I want that out of all my
losers.
students after they've been coming
Sore
there for a while.
losers.
But
No.
they've got to listen
Sour grapes.
and have
Sour grapes.
yeah.
Suck it.
They don't listen to this podcast. They're not going to change their life magically. They don't listen to you in class. If they're like, oh, Travis is talking.
Well,
now.
yeah,
guess
but
you
that goes without saying.
I guess
gotta
you could
listen.
hold them down and look in their eyes, Michael, to make
Yeah.
sure that they listen.
Yes.
Well, once they get a blue belt, all bets are off.
He kicks them out. He kicks them out. Now you're too good now. You might
Yeah.
beat me. Yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Actually,
Yeah, be coachable.
yeah, I think people should listen to that. Yeah. Listen to your coaches. Do what they say.
But I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, we're not, what was that game that all the kids play? Fortnite, right? Like, we're not.
God, don't even get me started
like,
on that.
You guys aren't, and I say you guys, meaning you're my student.
Yeah.
You guys aren't like a video game character. Like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to, move the joystick for you, right? I want you to be able to figure it out for yourself. You don't need somebody with the joystick. And really, honestly, like, to me, like MMA, jiu-jitsu, like, that's all just a vehicle for more important stuff. And really what I care about is the fact that my students come in, they create better habits, they make better friendships, they get healthier, more confident. And because of that, like, when we become happier individuals, we tend to make the people around us happier too. And I mean, I don't want to sound like a hippie because I'm not the one who lives in Portland, or Boise, for that matter. I live in God's country in
Boise
Montana,
is a
but
spectacular place.
For hippies.
yeah, for hipsters who wear
true.
fanny packs.
That's not true.
Totally true.
It's mostly
You are
true
a
at
walking,
worst.
talking billboard for
For hipsters? No.
Please.
Really?
Because I had to make you shave your mustache when you moved here. But no, I mean, if we could make everybody a little bit more self-assured, confident, happy, healthy, and I mean, man, life is short. Like what Michael was just talking about.
Hell yeah.
That I mean,
That could be around the corner for any of us.
all of us.
Yeah.
And it is around the corner eventually for all of us. Like
I'll die long before that just due to my hobbies.
No one's getting out of this world alive.
Correct.
Period. So, yeah, I mean, I think let's spend less time trying to make each other miserable and more time building each other up, applauding each other's successes. Let's celebrate when we're on Facebook and we see that, oh, Andy's in Hawaii, or, hey, look at Michael just got a new Mercedes, or, hey, here's my brother with his hot girlfriend, instead of scrolling through our news feed and going, oh, I fucking hate that guy. Or,
Yeah.
Oh,
You're looking for the negative as opposed to leveraging the positive.
Well, it's like you see other people happy and it makes you sad.
Where you go, why that guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Like,
he did more.
well, how about just like
Usually, yeah.
that guy's doing something that you're envious of right now? So be happy for him because he's enjoying what you also would like to enjoy.
For sure.
And it's like,
That's the best ending ever. Cheers, gentlemen. Another beer for Michael.
That'd be
Michael's done.